Indy and Deirdre have had a stormy relationship. She said she didn't want to get married, so he started dating other women, so she said she does want to get married, but now he thinks he doesn't want to get married, and now she's furious because a student named Catherine tried to seduce him, and is this an action novel or a romance?
Argofont Book Review, Argofont Book Review.
Indy and Deirdre are in Guatemala with their incompetent boss, Dr. Bernard. He's the sort of boss who will ignore your instructions, then blame you when things go wrong. That happens when they explore a booby-trapped temple and make a tricky escape, only to run into murderous grave robbers. Bernard blames Indy, as if Indy sent the robbers a written invitation. Back in New York, Marcus Brody does an exhibition of impossible archaeological discoveries, like ancient Irish writing found in Arizona. Legend has it that Celtic druids traveled to the Americas 2,500 years ago, and they founded a city in the Amazon rainforest known as Z. In real life, an explorer named Colonel Fawcett disappeared in 1925 while searching for Z. Marcus just received a letter containing pages from Colonel Fawcett's journal. Marcus asks Indy to go to Brazil and find Fawcett before it's too late. Deirdre makes a serious attempt to return home to Scotland, but she can't go through with it because she loves Indy too much. Indy suggests getting married, and they do! They're married on a cruise ship to Brazil. I wonder why Indy had a wife never came up in any of the movies. The honeymoon isn't all good. Two thugs leave a threat in their room and knock them out. The thugs kidnap Deirdre in Rio de Janeiro. They take her on the cable car to the famous statue, because I guess they're tourists as well as kidnappers. Indy gives chase. He tries climbing up the cable line with his bare hands. It doesn't take him long to realize that's a really stupid thing to do, even for an action hero. The villains tie Deirdre up with rope and hang her from a cliffside branch. Indy's friend helps lower him to Deirdre, but oh no! His friend was working with the villains all along! Indy and Deirdre fall down the cliff. Luckily, the rope catches on an iron spike, and they use some mountain climbing footholds to get to safety. The villain's revealed to be Dr. Bernard. He made a large bet against Colonel Fawcett. He has paid the thugs to make sure Fawcett's never found. I said Bernard was a bad boss, but I didn't think he would try to kill Indy. The only clue Indy has to go on is Hotel Paraíso in Bahia. It's not a hotel, it's a temple for the local Yoruba religion. Two of the people there are Amergin and Rae-la, who are from the lost city of Siva. Rae-la wants to help Fawcett escape the city, while the treacherous Amergin wants to bring outsiders into the city to serve as breeders. Amergin constantly lies to Rae-la about his true purposes. The thugs lure Indy into a bar fight, they're all arrested for a time. Indy and Deirdre read Fawcett's full journal. The journal explains that the city's inhabitants have the ability to turn themselves invisible. They call it veiling. Your station in their society is based on how strong your veiling powers are. For example, people on the 4th level are teachers, people on the 5th level keep the city hidden from outsiders, and the people on the 6th level are in charge of everything. The 7th veil is unknown. Indy and Deirdre prepare to travel to Siba by plane, with Rae-la and Amergin as their guides. Dr. Bernard and the thugs interrupt. There's an action sequence where Indy and the thugs are sucked out of the airplane door. Indy survives by catching his foot on the strut of the plane wing. 3 days later, they land on a lake close to Siba. Amergin and Rae-la warn that Indy cannot enter the city under any circumstances. That would be a boring way to end the book, though. A tribe of cannibals attacks, killing the plane pilot and Dr. Bernard. Indy and Deirdre have no choice but to enter the Forbidden City. They're locked in a room together. Amergin says they're dreaming and awake at the same time. Indy shoots Amergin, and Deirdre wakes up. Indy can't remember what happened because it was Deirdre's dream. Colonel Fawcett visits them and says confusing things. Indy wakes up. Deirdre can't remember what happened because it was Indy's dream. Sounds to me like Deirdre and Indy need to synchronize their sleep schedules. Indy and Deirdre are put on trial before a council, with Rae-la and Amergin acting as defense and prosecution. Everyone can hear Indy's thoughts, and he realizes dreams are real in this place. While the dream trial is going on, Colonel Fawcett wakes up Indy and Deirdre in their room. The three of them fight past some guards and escape the city by jumping off a cliff into the river. Naturally, the big river chase scene includes falling down a waterfall. When it seems like our heroes are safe, the cannibals reappear and capture them. They're rescued by Rae-la, who fears she will be exiled from the city no matter what at this point. She helps our heroes escape on the plane, only there's not enough fuel and the plane crashes in the jungle. Indy should be dead, but he gets a deus ex machina. He has a vision of the legendary wizard Merlin, who he met in the previous book. Merlin reveals he's a master of the seventh veil, which is the veil between life and death. I remember that from the end of the fifth Harry Potter book. Just because Merlin is immortal, it doesn't mean he's all-powerful. Merlin says he was able to heal Indy, but none of the others. Indy wakes up a month later with no memory of what really happened. The end. Post-book follow-up. I wasn't a big fan of the first two Indiana Jones books, so I'm glad this one is much better. This one feels like an Indiana Jones movie. It has lots of action sequences and a higher dead body count than the last two books combined. I don't think fans would be disappointed if this book had been made into a movie. Although, in a movie version, Deirdre would probably be replaced with Marion. I did not like the final part of the book. The city's dream aspects were more confusing than interesting to me. Deirdre's death was poorly handled. She dies so close to the ending that Indy doesn't have time to process it or even acknowledge it. Since her death is paired with plot-induced amnesia, it kind of ruins the relationship. Indy remembers less than half of his marriage. The next book starts 2 years later, when Deirdre's no longer relevant to Indy. That feels like cheating to avoid talking about her death. If the series is going to unceremoniously kill Indy's wife and ignore her death, what was the point of him getting married in the first place? Overall, it was a good book, besides for the ending. And even then, there are good action sequences in the parts I didn't like, so I can't honestly say they're a total loss. I hope the rest of the series is as good as this one, because I think it's the best book so far. I give Indiana Jones number 3. Indiana Jones and the Seven Veils an 8 out of 10.